The news that nobody wanted is back. The European Super League has reared its ugly head once again with a new format and new reimaginings to try and appease, I suppose, some fans. I can understand why Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus would love a Super League. And I can also understand, and I am one of the people who would absolutely hate the Super League. I believe in life you have to see things from both sides of an argument. And we'll be looking through some of the news around the Super League in this video. Do let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. I imagine it's going to be overwhelmingly negative for the Super League alliance. Anyway, a new Super League, a new European Super League would be a competition with no permanent members and based on sporting performance, says A22 Chief Executive Bernd Reichart. A22 Sports Management is a company promoting a revamped European League. The company backed the last European Super League in 2021 that failed to materialise after protests against it. And let me just show you who this man is. He's on the Barcelona website. Here he is. The man who's trying to tear apart football, Bernd Reichart there. And if I've actually looked to find A22, I'd never really heard about them much before, but I've gone on their website, and as you can see, there's a few pages and stuff. There's series of videos on every page as well. But I mean, this bloke is reading out off a teleprompter on the very first page, setting out what he wants the European Super League to be. The biggest change that we will ever see in our sport that we love and that is loved by billions of people around the world. Remember, billions of people watch the World Cup, not millions, billions. He can't even be bothered to remember the lines for a 2-minute, 17-second video. He is reading the script. You can see his eyes moving. You can see him reading off a teleprompter. If that is the kind of bloke that you want running football, then I'm sorry, but football is about to collapse. So I don't want to do this, but I will include a link to the A22 Sports website so you can read through it or at your own leisure. There's some interesting things to read on there. I'll read a quote to you right now. Why European football needs change. Football has a number of fundamental challenges and weaknesses that prevent the sport from reaching its full potential. Essentially, what this bloke is saying is that within the national leagues, the clubs have more of a say of what goes on. Whereas when it comes to European football, they don't have much say at all, and it is just run by UEFA, of which I imagine they see as a bit of a monopoly. That is the word that is on a lot of the news sites at the moment and this morning. But the whole news about it is that there will be 14 games in a season where obviously the bigger teams will just play each other. That's obviously just going to be a start, and eventually it will just become massive. And they're going to want to take the games all around the world. I saw Goldbridge talk about on his channel a lot like the F1. It makes sense that that is what they'd want to do. Take it to India, China, America, Australia, and have these big games all around the world. They have that already with the pre-season friendlies, but yeah, they want to have it with these sort of competitive competitions, I suppose. Now, why are some people against the Super League and why are some people for the Super League? Let's talk about the against one, because obviously it's a lot easier for the majority of you who will be British. I think about 80% of my audience are British from the UK. So for us, football is an institution, and it's a pyramid, and it's grassroots at the bottom, and then it's Chelsea and Man City and all the mind-boggling transfer fees up the top. And if you won every single game from the very bottom tier to the very top tier, you'd eventually become champions of the country. And that is what is so good about football. It is this incredible pyramid system where, yeah, like I say, if you are successful, you can get to the top. And that is what the Super League will obviously negate. Now, they are saying that there won't be spots for teams all the time in the Super League, but we know that's bollocks. It's always just going to be about Real Madrid playing Barcelona in New York and Liverpool playing Juventus in Australia. We know that's what they want, and they're just trying to change the wording, I think, a bit and add more teams to it, just so they can, I guess, appeal to more fans and say there is promotion and relegation. But if Liverpool do get relegated out the Super League, whatever that would even look like, the Super League wouldn't want that to happen anyway, because Liverpool are one of the big draws and they want them to play Real Madrid. I actually can't believe I've got this shirt up behind me today. If Liverpool actually go through with it again, the John Henrys, or if they sell the club to Qatar, I honestly don't know what I would do with my support of Liverpool and the Premier League in general, quite honestly. But yeah, let's look at why clubs want the Super League. The Premier League has become the Super League. That is what a lot of people say. Look at Bournemouth. Look at like Fulham and how much they can spend. Forest. Look at how much Forest have spent. They've bought some incredible players over the last year since they've been in the Premier League. And I can understand why teams like Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid don't want to be outspent, I guess, and outbid by essentially second-tier teams just coming up into the Premier League. The Premier League does have too much money. I said it recently where I was going to a non-league game, Cambuslang Rangers. I spoke about Chelsea and how ridiculous it is. I think there's too much money in the Premier League, and it is almost down to the success of the Premier League that we're sort of in this situation. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juve, these teams, they can't compete. Inter Milan, AC Milan, they'll never get near the Premier League the way things are at the moment. In the next 10 years, I can't see them making as much money. But it's sort of their own fault too, isn't it, in those leagues? They don't distribute their funds. I think the Spanish league gives a higher percentage of their money to Barcelona and Real Madrid than they do to the rest of the other teams. Whereas in England, it is spread out a lot more. So we do have a competitive league where Chelsea and Liverpool aren't doing very well this season and Fulham are doing really well. And Newcastle are getting into the Champions League now. And obviously they've had money and investment. Of course they have. But we have a more competitive league in terms of the distribution of funds, and that helps everybody out, not just the ones at the top. Does this mean it would be the end of the Premier League and the Champions League? I think it would probably be the end of the Champions League, I suppose. I can't see them playing the European Cup and the European Super League. But from all accounts, the Super League would probably be the main competition of focus for the clubs. So they'd play their main players in that, and then they'd play a weakened team for Premier League games. And it's just going to be terrible for clubs like Everton if they're not in it, and like the sort of West Hams of the world, the Villas if they're not in it. It's mad, honestly. It's such a shake-up, and I honestly don't even really know how to think about it all. It's just, where will it take us? There are so many unknowns. If it does ever come to fruition, who knows what the future may hold. I personally don't think it will ever come to fruition. I think there'll be too many boycotts. Look at what happened, at the Chelsea game with Petr Cech, and Thogden was at the front, obviously, and Rory Jennings too. They were all there, and that was when sort of football was saved that day at Chelsea, and all the fan groups came together. That's what I loved. The whole football community came together, and rivalries were sort of put aside. But let's have a quick look at the new format. So here we go. Reichart, the man who wants to change football forever and possibly ruin it for everybody, says the new ESL would contain 60 to 80 teams, each guaranteed a minimum of 14 matches per season. A minimum of 14 matches. There you go. So it could be a maximum. Sorry, that was me digressing there. Guaranteed a minimum of 14 matches per season and continue to play their domestic leagues. In their domestic leagues, A22 did not provide more specifics on the format. So does that mean that Celtic and Rangers would potentially be in the European Super League? I think, looking at it from possibly a positive point of view for smaller European teams, would it make Celtic and Rangers bigger than what they already are, or more successful than what they already are? What is bigger and what is success? I feel like these are sort of meaningless terms in a way, because they mean different things for different people. In terms of money, yes, they'd probably get more money and maybe a better playing squad, but that would probably drive an even bigger wedge between Celtic and Rangers and your Aberdeens, Hearts and Hibs, etc., and the rest of Scottish football anyway. Would the money from the Super League trickle down into the domestic leagues? These are all questions that we will never know the answer to unless it actually starts. But I mean, there was massive uproar, wasn't there, in the summer when, or was it the summer, or it was supposed to be in November, was it? Yeah, when the World Cup was on, I think they announced it in the summer possibly, when Celtic and Rangers were due to play a friendly in Australia. The fact that these two clubs who usually play each other in such big, meaningful moments were going to get taken to Australia for a friendly was outrageous for the fans. And would it be outrageous for you Celtic and Rangers fans to play Barcelona in Delhi? But it means you get another couple of $100 million a year for doing so, which means you can invest in the playing squad. You'd win the league even easier here. I don't know if it would help or hinder you. Let me know in the comments section below. It's actually interesting because I made a couple of European Super League videos before. My European Premier League video, I'm looking at them just now. My Boycott the Clubs video, that's when I was in Liverpool. I interviewed some Liverpool fans. And my 12 teams the Super League forgot about. Because obviously the Super League was just, 12 teams at first, wasn't it? The 6 from the Prem, 3 from Italy and 3 from Spain. I was like, what about Feyenoord? What about Ajax? What about Porto, Benfica, Celtic, Rangers? It looks like now these teams may actually be involved if the Super League ever does come to fruition anyway. The older I get and the more money that floods the top of football, and I don't really see it distributed too much further below. Obviously, like, the Championship's fantastic in England, but I think when you look at Chelsea spending £500 million on players and putting players on like 8-year contracts, Enzo, he seems like a good midfielder. He had a good World Cup, but £106 million. Come on. During COVID, Dover, they couldn't fulfill their fixtures. They had no money coming in, so they couldn't actually travel to away games and stuff like that. I think they got fined and deducted points because they couldn't physically pay to even go to games. There are stories like that in football that just boggle my mind. There's that much money at the top, and then you got clubs going out of existence. We've covered Bury on this channel before. We've been to Bolton. We've been to clubs who have volunteers who they struggle to get games on at the weekends. And like when I go to Cambuslang Rangers, when I go to where did we go yesterday? Dalbeattie Star. These are clubs run by volunteers, and that's what football should all be about, really. At the heart of it is the community and the people that grow these clubs. Liverpool, Rangers, all these clubs, they started as small clubs playing on like playing fields with lads who had a dream of inventing a football club. Footballers just run and run and run, obviously, to become this huge behemoth of a sport, biggest sport in the world, watched by so many people. And is it really a surprise that that people want to create a new product? I don't necessarily think it is. I don't think UEFA are perfect. I don't think FIFA are perfect either. Obviously, there have been countless scandals and bits of corruption between FIFA and UEFA that we shouldn't be seeing them as the saviour of the game. They have got a lot to account for anyway, and they've got a lot to be guilty for, I'm sure, as well, without going into specifics, obviously. But it isn't any real surprise that, what was his name again? Bernd Reichart. There's no surprise that this bloke is trying to get clubs away from UEFA and FIFA, really, with how they've behaved in the past. So you got to look at this from both angles. I'm not saying I want the Super League. I definitely don't. I don't think football right now is perfect, but I also don't think that we can take the clubs away from the fans and take competitive games to other continents. Obviously, the Club World Cup exists already. Maybe that's something that could be expanded. But the Champions League, the European Cup, the Premier League, what was the first division of the Football League, like, these are historic competitions that we should protect with all our passion that we have. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. There's going to be a lot of Scottish fans watching this, so would you like to see your clubs in the Super League? Would Aberdeen fit in it? Would Hearts fit in it? Would they ever be invited in? I really don't know how it's all going to work, but let me know what you think of Bernd Reichart. Go and check out the A22 Sports website. Just some company, I guess, that wants to break football forever, possibly. So, yeah, don't know how to finish this one off, but see you later.